Most approach the Quran as a linear historical record, but if we follow the text's own internal markers, we find an executing mathematical matrix, an eternal memory tesseract. This visualization represents a four-dimensional tesseract. Verse 39:23 defines the Quran with these specific properties. It is mutashabi, self-similar, and mathani, doubled or folded upon itself. Navigating this structure requires the use of aqal, or reason, as demanded by verse 10:100. This moves the viewer from a passive reader to an active operator of the system. Within this framework, the Quran is the mathematical blueprint generating reality. To understand the result, we have to operate the coordinates. In rigorous epistemology, a true identity requires two independent derivations. If a pattern is universal, it must be provable through two different logical paths. Historically, mathematicians Leonhard Euler and Srinivasa Ramanujan proved the double-angle identity using two distinct methods, one through rotating waves, the other through measurable geometry. The identity is sine 2 alpha equals 2 sine alpha cosine alpha. It is a single result derived from three interconnected components. The Quran performs these exact two derivations on a closed set of three specific prophetic lives to provide the proof of the resurrection. This makes the resurrection a conserved mathematical identity built into the scriptural geometry. Euler's derivation squares a single rotating field, so the doubled angle naturally emerges. This maps to Isa in verse 1933, speaking in the first person, "Peace upon me the day I was born, die, and am raised alive." Ramanujan's proof works differently, splitting an isosceles triangle to calculate the area from the outside. This maps to Yahya in verse 1915. The same three events are spoken in the third person, measured as an external body. Verse 359 confirms different constructions can reach the same coordinate, stating the likeness of Isa is as the likeness of Adam. Just as triangle geometry and wave algebra arrive at the same area, these paths arrive at the same result. One internal wave, one external body. Both yield the same conserved identity within the Quranic matrix. To understand why the equation balances, look at the individual components. Sine alpha is Yahya. In trigonometry, sine represents the vertical rise. Yahya's root, hyyyh, means he lives, the function named after its own output. Verse 1912 records him receiving hukam, or wisdom, as a child. He represents the pure rise of the sine wave, where the slope is captured at its very beginning. Cosine alpha is Solomon. In a right triangle, cosine is the horizontal complement, the side remaining adjacent and hidden. Solomon is Awab, the turner, representing the cosine's invisible rotational cycle. Verse 34:14 captures this hidden complement. His death goes unseen, while workers orbit a dead center, until his staff breaks and the hollowed core collapses. Life and death are vertical and horizontal vectors. Both are mathematically necessary to calculate the resurrection. Sine 2 alpha is Ahmed, the double-sealed, life multiplied by death. Because Isa is the continuous wave, he announces Ahmed in verse 61:6. A wave squaring its own field naturally announces the doubling. Ahmed's root, HMD, is the exact same root opening the book at 1-2. This doubling brings the entire prophetic system back to its origin. Once the pure rise of life and the hidden structural death interact, the resurrection coordinate becomes the logical conclusion of the loop. For this mathematical proof to function, biological paternity contributes nothing to the result. The Arabic root for husband, Bal, appears only 5 times. In the narratives of these births, the physical father is repeatedly shown to be aged or absent. This root reaches its limit in verse 37:125, where calling upon Baal as a source of creation is identified as a false idol. Biology is a dead end. In contrast, the root wahaba, meaning gift, appears 22 times. It shows every arrival in this chain bypassing biological mechanics and entering the field as a direct grant from a divine source. Verse 1092 presents the alternative, the preserved body of Pharaoh. This is the hollow artifact left behind when a signal is rejected for worldly preservation. Continuity in this system is a matter of divine grants, not genetic inheritance. A transition occurs at verse 26-21. Here, the gift changes. It is no longer a physical son, it becomes hukam, or the book itself. Succession in the Quranic chain passes through intellectual resonance. The lineage is carried by those who recognize the data. This leads to the mandate in verse 19:12, take the book with strength, a requirement to grip the coordinate to become the next link. The flesh is multiplied by the book and doubled. 2 independent proofs, 1 identity. Verse 10:100 requires the use of reason to see past the illusions of standard history. The Tesseract is executing. By activating the grip of 1912, the reader moves from observing the resurrection to becoming the living coordinate of the return.